Welcome, friends, to Reality Test. What is reality testing, you may ask? Well, it's something we all do every day, maybe with our loved ones over dinner, with coworkers at the water cooler, etc., when we check our subjective or personal emotions, thoughts, and so forth against objective or sort of more agreed upon fact-based reality. Although, because Dr. Ray and I, Dr. Kay, are social constructionists, we don't actually believe there's one true objective reality, but rather our own personal versions of it constructed in the context of relationships. But you get the idea. So here in Reality Test, we're going to be testing the castmate realities and the producer antics of our favorite reality TV shows against what we know as licensed psychologists about the reality out here, off of our TVs. We hope you'll join us as we attempt to reality test. Listen, y'all, we have a lengthy version of our disclaimer in the show description text, also in our old episodes, but we do ethically need to at least include part of it at the start of each episode. So here's our briefest version of the disclaimer. If you've heard it before, you can skip ahead 30 seconds, or for the old episodes, 2 minutes. So although we're licensed psychologists, psychotherapists, supervisors in the context of our professional roles, we are not acting as therapists in the context of this pod, neither for you nor for the reality castmates we discuss. We will give our opinions as our whole human selves, albeit supported by our psychological knowledge, and we will talk about diagnoses rather than assigning them, as we cannot ethically assign diagnoses without formal psych assessment. But both the opinions and diagnoses we discuss might easily be erroneous, as we don't personally know the folks in reality TV shows. That's it. Thanks, y'all. Now check out our campy theme song.
Are you feeling stressed? Your head's all messed? Well, let's forget all the rest. Fuck it, we're blessed. Cause it's time to talk reality test. Come with us. Let's reality test.
Welcome to Reality Test. I'm Dr. Ray.
And I'm Dr. Kay. Feel free to take a seat wherever you like after you check in and keep it fresh with us.
Yes, we are keeping it fresh because it's fall, and fall is fresh. Fall is not spring cleaning. It's getting rid of the leaves. It's the crisp air. It's the spooky season. And
yeah, the air is fresh.
It.
I love that. And we're making room for fresh beginnings in January.
This is beautiful. I like it. Fresh beginnings, new starts. And for you, the end of your sabbatical, which is unfortunate, but
that's so true. That's going to be weird. But actually, I could segue that right into my check-in, in fact. Why don't we do that? Why don't we do this little segue? Hop on those little things with the wheels and things and head on over to my check-in, which is to say, I finally am done with a lot of the work I had to do that was not sabbatical related, that was keeping me from being on my sabbatical. And as of this week, I have completed it. So starting next week, I can really focus on what I'm here to do and working on the books I'm supposed to be working on. So it's exciting. I feel good about it.
Thank fucking God. You deserved more of a sabbatical within your sabbatical, but I'm glad that now you get to have the sabbatical within a sabbatical within a sabbatical, like a Russian doll situation.
Yes, exactly. A babushka? Or I don't know. One of them. No, babushka is like a type of woman. Okay. Anyway, point being though, I am doing that. And I am going to have the sabbatical within the sabbatical. And the other thing I was going to mention about it quickly is I had this other thing and totally dropped it real quick. But it was important. It was probably not important at all, but it is good. It is good. You know what? It's like I have the problem is, and that is, I remembered what I was going to say. It was good. I stalled long enough. I think the problem is like when you are, and this will be the same for you too, at that point is when you are in like administrative positions, so you're so entangled. It's like you can't really just kind of like dip out. It also means we don't get like real vacations too, which isn't great, but it's like mixed with the fact that on the academic calendar, we get at least like structurally kind of a break, a few times a year. So it's nice.
Yes, it is nice. But I wish your break felt like more of a break than maybe it is right now.
I love your wish. Thank you so much. That was very sweet. So tell me what's going on with your heart and mind, dear Dr. Ray.
Let's see. What is on my heart and mind? Things are kind of settling down for me too a little bit, which is nice. And I'm just like, I love where I live, which is so cool. Like I look outside as we're recording this pod and I'm like, God, I think it takes 2 years for a new place to feel like home. I'm starting to feel like I'm at home, which is cool. It just feels nice and cozy. And it's just nice to be getting established in the place that I live now. So, yeah.
I love that so much. You're not leaving us. That makes me so happy.
Yay.
We didn't scare you off our general neck of the woods.
I'm scared, but not off. Luckily.
Good answer. Good answer.
Yes. Luckily, the people, like 89% of the people I work with, make it a worthwhile endeavor, I would say.
Not a bad ratio. Not a bad ratio.
I'll take it. I'll take the rash.
I know, right? It's like, yeah, that's not great. It's sort of like rash, It's like the rash. Oh, that's funny as fuck. I love that so much. The homeliness, homebody, no, it's none of those things. Because homeliness also means
homeliness.
Like, yeah, right? That's not it. The home feelingness of it.
Hominess, yes. Hominess is not homely for me.
Oh, yeah,
right
hominess, good. Yeah, hominess. I love that. The hominess is giving, and I love that. It sounds like it's giving life. It's giving me life to know that for you. And the other thing I was thinking about with the 2-year thing is I totally agree, because it reminds me also of how we say, like, when you're teaching the same course for more than 2 years, you need to teach it twice to like feel like it's your second nature kind of taught item there. So I like that. That's cool. Makes sense to me as well.
Yay. Oh, good stuff. Well, we have a lot on the docket today, my friend, because we are covering Love is Blind USA episodes 1 through 11, right?
Yes. But this episode we'll just do through 6-ish. Yeah. And then next episode for later this week, for y'all later this week, we'll get us through 11. So that all we'll have left is 12, which are the weddings, and 13, which is the reunion that hasn't come out yet. And those two will be what we cover next week. And then an awards episode, we'll go back to having an awards episode next week as well.
Yay. We are so excited. This is going to be, I mean, it's so much happened on this season of Love is Blind. So many men disappointed us, and we're excited to talk all about it.
Let's do it. I actually, before we even jump in, we'll go ahead and just give that as my one of my segments. Actually, you know what? I do have one quick update, real quick, like promise it's quick.
Yes.
It's about Golden Bachelorette. And remember we were talking about Gil? Gil was like the guy with the stalking. So there's another guy named Guy Ganser. Have you seen this yet?
Right.
He had a restraining order that was eventually, I guess, dropped, but by an ex. Yeah. The ER doctor. And he's in the finale. Or like, I don't know if he's in the finale. He's in Hometowns, I should say. That's all we know so far. But he's in Hometowns. And he effing, you know?
Oh my God. That is not good.
No.
Wow.
It's like, again, Bachelor, the fuck? And he like released a statement that was very Devon-y, like, I'm sorry, I've learned from it. It's not what it seems like whatever. It's like, whatever, dude, fuck you. I hate it. It makes me so unhappy. Not fuck you. I don't want to be mean, but like, honestly, what are we doing? I do feel upset about the producers. Like they have the privilege. They should be doing this work much better than they do it. It's so disappointing. How do we not? If this is something people can find out easily. We also didn't find it out earlier. That's also of note, right? Like we found out about Gil, who was also like not much in the show. So like then that disappeared and it was okay. But we didn't find out about Gil right away because he's in the final. Like I feel like the producers are a part of how it gets leaked too.
They should absolutely be vetting this sort of thing because it does not create an environment of safety for their castmates who ultimately, I know that the goal is actually to entertain people, but the show is about finding love, and you should be trying to set up your people with people who aren't potentially going to stalk them down the line. That's just a good idea.
Yeah. Right. Ugh. It's just like common motherfucking sense. And it's like so disappointing because no one's going to want to be in your show if you're doing things like that to people. They could really be unsafe or like murdered, frankly. There have been serial killers who've been on shows. The Match Game, the fucking, what the fuck his fucking name is. That's so scary. And then the other one is, the other one I was just thinking of is the guy that was on Megan the Millionaire, Who Wants to Marry a Millionaire or whatever. It was like Megan was a millionaire and Megan Wants a Millionaire. That's what it was. She wanted to marry a millionaire. And there was this guy, Ryan, who was on it, who killed somebody. Great. He like stuffed her body in a fucking suitcase. Yeah.
Whoa.
Not Megan, obviously, but his victim. It's fucking crazy. Like, so those things have happened. And with The Bachelor being so loosey-goosey about, it's not going to be hard to imagine that something really even more serious could easily happen. And this is already so serious. So scary, very, very scary. And I'm going to use that to segue back into my first segment because it's related to Love is Blind in terms of a much gentler, not as severe problem, but still with casting, which are the men. Like, so for something we discussed earlier, and you raised it here, which is perfect. Something we discussed earlier as well. I like had it as one of my awards for testosterone, that the entire cast of men were rough hags. Granted, I only had like known at that point about like Leo, Nick, and a couple others, but it has only gotten worse. There's only been more people that just so disappoint, of the men specifically. So I really think they did a poor job casting DC men. There's nobody I want to be with on that group. I mean, you know, that's not really necessarily a need, but I do want it to be like, I want them to want to be with some of those men, and I don't.
Yeah.
The women.
Not a winner in the group, TBH.
No.
Even Tyler goes downhill.
Yeah, it's so sad about the lying. So,
yeah.
I mean, he of the group, the least upsetting for me, but like still very upsetting. So that sucks.
For a second, I was even on Tim's side, but then the way he ended it, I was like, when they had their first fight, I actually was like, he's being kind of emotionally intelligent here. Like I felt good about it. And then the way he ended things, I was like, whoa, this is really unfair. Like she's trying. Ugh.
No, I think he got the power up position based on what happened on the honeymoon, because he was right. And so then he got the power position in their dynamic, and it never changed after that. Like he just sort of like, you know, went to the hills with it by the end there. It was really upsetting.
It sucked.
Yeah.
Oh, should we get into it?
Yes.
Get into episode 1?
Yes.
Well, I will start us off on episode 1. So begins with Nick and Vanessa doing their thing in the best job in television, I would say. Best hosting gig there is. They do not have to do much. Nope. But Nick makes a joke about situationships. He doesn't know what they are. And I think the episode's called maybe No More Situationships or something, but I can't remember. That's cute. The boys are singing Ain't No Mountain High Enough, so they're feeling excited. There's good energy in the pods. Yeah. And then we get to the dating. And again, because we're covering a lot here, we're doing like the main hits. We're not going to go too in depth here. One of the first conversations is between Ashley and Tyler. Tyler says he's nervous and actually does seem nervous. And Ashley seemed to really like this. And I think that kind of started to establish their dynamic where she can be kind of the strong one in their relationship and kind of comfort him. And they connected off the bat, and it was cute. Garrett and Taylor are really connecting, but things you mentioned this on a previous episode. Ooh, this is also something we mentioned. Well, not really. I guess it's just the facts of the show, but you had a good nuanced take on it, that it was weird. Like, so I now seeing it. So essentially Taylor said, again, for the listeners, that she didn't want to share her mother's name because that would give away her ethnicity. Garrett was very weird about this, kind of like blamed her, said she was being secretive, which also felt like
he said calculated too.
Oh, wow.
Racist.
I know. It felt racist when he didn't know her race. It just felt it. I think he was processing or whatever, and it was weird. And it went then unresolved by producers because we don't actually return to it. And they just kind of move on. But that was a sociopolitical moment for me because she was trying to stick to the experiment, to do what they're doing, which is to fall in love with someone's soul, allegedly, which is, I don't know, it's complicated, but that was the goal she was going on. But the way he acted showed a lot of white fragility and blaming, and I really didn't like it.
Terrible reaction. So, and you know that I couldn't come up with like what producers would have done differently. So I will do that since you bring it up. That's a great point because they never wrapped back into it. It was one of my sociopolitical ones, but I'll pivot a little bit because I have another thing I want to share about it too, which is also her reaction was troubling. Like, so he says, she says like, I don't want to give away my ethnicity. He's like, wait a minute, like, whoa, like. And then he suddenly like becomes obsessed with knowing what she looks like. It's like, so you don't really care about what she looks like. You care about what ethnicity she is, clearly, because before you both agreed you weren't going to look at looks. So clearly it's about ethnicity. And so that's important. And then one of the things she says, like he calls her fucking calculated, which was like really bad, because then that pulls on all the racist things about like people of color trying to pull things over on white people, like the idea of like black people organizing behind the scenes during slavery, or another kind of parallel to that is the same way it's seen about like women trying to organize against men, like any, that women are trying to like, or trans women are trying to pull things over on straight men. It's all these like, it's this idea that people in power, everyone who's not, it must be scheming. So I hated that. And obviously he knows automatically she's in a power down position compared to him if she's saying something about ethnicity and not him, and he's only dated white people. So that's the one bone he gets is like, sure, he's only dated white women, so he just hadn't thought about it. But that is a part of racism. That's a part of his white, privilege. He never even thought that somebody might not be white. And so those are problems. My issue with her that sort of like pokes its little head in there is that she then very carefully says, well, I don't want people to only be dating me for my ethnicity, which is a very choice thing to say because that is not something a Black woman would likely say. Yeah. No. And so I think that's something that was her way of communicating to him. It's a desirable ethnicity and I don't like it.
Yeah, you're right. Oh my gosh, you're absolutely right that that's a coded. And I can understand she's now in this position where she's powered down and so her back's against the wall. But yeah, she's kind of relying on that sort of model minority fetishization thing, that intersection. Oh, that's tough. You're right.
And it worked. Like he completely shifted. It was kind of what she needed to say. But like, I think that I don't know what else, like maybe I could think more about that, but I don't really know what else she could have said that would have hopefully, but why, right? Like, I don't even know. Why am I even thinking about that? What I actually think should have happened was I would hope if she had really addressed her own oppression, that she might be like, that is a racist reaction. And I understand that you have, whiteness and I would love to be able to talk about this more with you. Why don't we take a beat? Because I know it's hot right now and just talk about this again another time. And like, I think that's the only way I would really hope and dream for it to go. But if she wasn't going to have that conversation, then like I understand trying to communicate, like, I don't want you to think it's like a bad, well, no, right? Like what? I can feel myself. Nope, can't do it. Can't even get a sentence out about it. Can't do it. Not good. Shouldn't have happened. And I think like you're saying, like it's understandable, but it's not really acceptable. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think in both of their cases. So
it's I think probably her internalized stuff about being a pretty Asian woman that it showed some of that there in complicated ways.
Had internalized racism about being Asian by accepting his reaction. That was like internalized, like as if that was deserved. And then the other thing that was racist was that also the idea of like racist, like anti-Black racism. And there is a huge history of anti-Black racism in Asian cultures. And there's a really great article about that in Time after what happened with George Floyd and one of the police officers being Asian. And a lot of was talked about that was really important. So it's a really important piece of it that is for another day, but very key. And I think we actually is another thing that producers could have sort of done with it and thought about, found a way to have that be a topic in the confessional or something like that, find a way to bring it in a little bit. Certainly, I would love to see it be brought back up. And I wonder if that's a function of the producers or of Taylor. Like, did they never talk about it again? Oh, they did, though. They did. They made a joke about her mom's name. And it was very brief and it was very awkward. And it was like never mentioned again.
Yeah. And it's this thing between them that's a big deal, especially if he's moving to San Diego, where he's going to likely be in cultures and spaces that are not the norm for him. A very white boy. I mean, that's exactly who Garrett is.
Exactly.
Yeah. Ugh. Oof. So that was tough and also went unaddressed again, which was also tough.
Yes.
Another thing you brought up previously was, so Leo like came in hot these first couple episodes and then we never hear from him again, which is confusing. But so he is very wealthy art dealer. As you said, it's not funny, but it's like something might be in the water with that family because holy shit, did a lot of people die of cancer? Like what the fuck is going? That is abnormal for that many people. Like he should be getting MRIs monthly at this point. I don't think that's good for you, but he should be really screening himself because damn, something is not right there.
Dude, it's scary, super scary. I want to know where they lived. It's like wow. Oh, I guess DC. Wow, I don't know. Ugh. Scary. Yeah.
I've lived in DC for a year, did not meet a lot of people dying of cancer. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe something with art But
yeah, right. The art world. Oh God, that's scary
who
too.
fucking knows? Oh,
Yeah.
So he said people often date him for his wealth. He doesn't really want people to know about it. However, as you mentioned before, it's something that he led with. And I would want to do therapy with him around the central relational paradox of him not liking that people are only with him for his money, but because he feels insecure, that is what he is leading with. So this is both something you've mentioned previously, and I think something that is important. Like he very clearly, especially in his relationship with Brittany, as it goes on, kind of leads with his money. And that's a dynamic that kind of feels true and lived in for both of them. But yeah, he both wants people to see him for him, but seems to lead with his wealth a lot. So that is something I would like to understand about him more, because I think he's a deeply insecure person and has a lot to work through. My goodness. I found him kind of scary, to be honest, but
absolutely. And I think also the other thing is, like, when I first watched that, I thought that he had just recently become like inherited it. And I was like, okay, I can kind of see that, because he's like still figuring it out, like figuring out his identity as a suddenly rich person, or suddenly like whatever leader of this. It turned out, no, he'd been like in charge of it for like a decade by that point. Not a decade, but close. It was like something, he was like 16, or he was very young, like 23 or something when he started. And then no. Yeah. So it actually, he had a lot of time to work through that. And so it's like, yeah.
He needs therapy. I mean, there's like a lot of narcissistic traits, a lot of like power and control. The way he is when women maybe try to reject him, that's clearly when he came alive and was very forceful in some ways, in ways
aggressive.
that were, aggressive, scary. Even the way, well, we'll get into it later, but
I think I know what you're going to say. I'm excited. Okay, go. Yeah. Continue.
Yes. So then we meet Nick D, who's a football kicker. Everyone thinks he's really smooth in the pods. We meet Hannah, who gave up her job to be here. She brought up that she was in a larger body, and this seems to be an insecurity for her in some ways, that she doesn't want men to know about as much, or feels complicated about. And then there's Brittany, who feels she should be a trophy wife, but also recognizes she's smarter than people give her credit for. Nick D and Hannah start connecting. He's making sexual comments about her body. She doesn't like this. That it makes her uncomfortable. Then we meet Steven and Monica, who Steven's kind of like a working class guy. He's cheated in the past. He's got red hair, white presenting. Monica's a woman of color, very put together, seemingly very lovely. Steven talked about cheating in the past and what he's learned. Monica told him maybe he's too hard on himself. And then to end the episode, we see that Ashley and Tyler really seem to be connecting. They both really like riding horses, and we're connecting over a lot of similar hobbies, and they seem to be vibing well. So yeah, that's episode 1.
Yay. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I really was well, I mean, we talked already about how there's some disappointing stuff later, but I really was a big Tyler Ashley fan for most of the show.
Me too.
Okay. Right? They're sweet together. I like it. Episode 2. So first we see that Hannah breaks up with Nick. But then essentially when she finds out that Brittany is the other woman with Leo, then she kind of panics and goes back and gets Nick back on her list, kind of knowing like, I can't compete with Brittany, essentially. And really Nick is putting the moves on, definitely like love bombing, putting his charm to work. He's definitely told, like in other contexts too throughout the season, that he's like leads with his charm, and it's off-putting, frankly. And even the women felt it was off-putting, but in some ways it also, I think, made Hannah feel secure, because she's like, her other choice is Leo, who's very much not making her feel secure. So Brittany tells Leo she knows she's number 2. He makes a comment about her voice. Oh my God. The a number of times he brought up her voice, and as if he was like complimenting her. It was gross. He's like, and I love your voice. I love your voice. I don't care what people say. Like, it's like that's essentially his entire style of complimenting was, I don't care what other people say. I like da-da-da, you know?
Other people will say this about you, but I see you differently. That's a red flag in itself.
Not a compliment.
Yeah.
Not good. Mm-hmm. Underhanded. Very bad. And he also, the other version of that is talking about people underestimating her smarts, and that he ends up talking a lot with her and then deciding, well, really, it's not that you're number 2, it's that you're both my number 1. It's like, oh, okay, great. Oh, okay, great. That's really what she wants to hear. She literally, I think, like scoffs too. Like, that doesn't help, you know, like that does nothing for me. I want to be number 1 or not anything. And understandable. They're not objects. Like, you're not just like placing them in an order, right? Like, what are we doing here? It is
not
basically
your art
like,
installation. Exactly.
It is basically like a professional thing. Like, it's like a career, you know, not career, but I was going to say academic. It's like a professional choice to do that, to put numbers to it. And it's not great. Not good. We meet Bowden or Bodie. He seems like a sweet guy. He is in the context with Marissa. He's in the pods. And he actually, like himself, Ukrainian. As soon as the war between Russia and Ukraine, or really the invasion of Ukraine started, he went right over to Ukraine and fought for them, which is really cool. And I really appreciated that. And we see him like pretty much shit on Trump, which I love. Wasn't it with Bowden? Was it with Bodie or was it with Ramses? I think it was with Bodie.
Oh, shit. Yeah, I think it was.
And they both say that they specifically use the word rapist. I'm here for it. Really nice use of political stuff there. We do also meet Ramses. He's the other from Marissa. He's cutie. Has some very like upward frontward facing views about emotional regulation, which I really in some ways appreciate, and in other ways felt like he was a little bit too early in that development for himself for it to be actually helpful in terms of emotional expression, because you can still tell he has some like internalized stuff about it. Like, he doesn't like that about himself as much as we want him to, you know, as much as she kind of gives him credit for. He clearly still has a lot of self-stigma or self-directed stigma about it. And that's uncomfortable for me, because it's like that kind of teaches people that that's what it looks like to be comfortable with your emotional regulation stuff, or like the amount of emotion you have. And it's amazing as a step towards that. It's a really great model of like, yes, on the way, you're going to feel uncomfortable about it still. And like over time, you'll stop feeling as uncomfortable about crying or whatever. Is the ideal. But because he's spoken about as so like forward facing about it, or forward about it, progressive about it, it kind of bummed me out. So then we find that that's true on a much bigger scale about his liberalism as well. So that's a pin in that one.
We do. Can I say one thing? I have so many friends who have dated people like Ramses, where they say all the right things. They're like leftist in all the ways that align with their political values, and use all the right like emotional liberal intelligence buzzwords, therapy terms. But then like have the like when it comes to actually talk about hard things are like completely inept and just can't do it. It is relatable content, actually including Men in DC. I had friends who discussed Men in DC who matched this sort of pattern. So,
I can totally see it. About. It's like, it's become, and like, just even the therapy part alone. You're right. Like, therapy speak has become so popular, or going to therapy, that some people like Jax can say, well, I went to therapy even though he didn't go, you know, or whatever, and sort of use it as a way to promote their wokeness or self-awareness. And I think that's very damaging, very, very damaging. And then they get misused. The language gets misused, and our field gets hurt by that. And then people get hurt by that as well, of course, individuals, and then misled. And it's false advertising, sir. Ramses, false advertising. You don't live liberal values. You have liberal political views. That's it.
Yes.
So false advertising. Again, harmful, right? It's harmful, because then we're telling everyone by watching the show, this is what liberalism looks like. No, it is not. That is not what liberalism looks like. He is not actually liberal in his bones, in his actions.
He's very attractive. I probably would date a Ramses and then be very disappointed in myself. And by the way, like Ramses, I'm sure will grow from this experience, and I am happy for that process for him. I can understand his appeal in the world is all I'm saying.
That's totally fair. Yeah, not my style, but I liked what he was bringing. Like the first date stuff, content, definitely, yeah, relatable. Liked it. So that's a bummer. He didn't follow through.
Yeah.
We do see they have a little love triangle here. And it's cute. I liked Bodhi because he's military too. I have similar views about militarism, which is that I don't agree with it. And I think we should spending our money on something else. And I think if we had a matriarch, if every country had a matriarch instead of a patriarch, we probably wouldn't be at war. Because we care more about relationships. We don't need war to show how big and strong we are. But beyond that, I do think for her, because she's military, I think that probably was a good fit for her because he's military and he's more liberal. Doesn't like Trump. Turned out she had dated a conservative Trump supporter before too. So she's coming front and center with it. She's like, I need to know now if that's the case because it's different and it is so different. I hear that. I really relate to that. So then we see Alex and Tim. They're connecting. And I'll do you want to share about this part? Because I see you have a segment.
Yes. There's actually two. I loved Alex talking about her connection to Islam. I thought that was really cool. And I think we just need more of that in shows that just don't center on like Judeo-Christian values and religions.
Yes.
I also liked here, Tim talked about like not doing well in school, which I think speaks to me sometimes about like how teachers might treat men of color in the classroom. And he always tested really well. And so I think he didn't see himself as a strong student, and yet he had all this potential. And I think has really like made something of himself in his career. But that's not always the case for kids who could do really well, but perhaps are not treated as well by their teachers as white students or students who they perceive as having more resources or whatever it may be. I don't know everything about his school situation. It may not fit this pattern, but that just made me think of that. And so I
like that. It sort of like brings it exactly. Either way, it brings up an important topic, which is really great. I'm glad they included that so that could come up. I would also say I'll bring one of my segments in here because it also relates to the next line as well. But my connection for Tim was that I would want to do therapy with Tim and Alex. And first of all, I'd want to do individual with both of them individually, or they both get individual therapists and I'm their couples therapist, one or the other. But I definitely think they both have their own shit they need to work through first. I think Alex was a little bit sheltered potentially. There's a level of like lack of awareness around sort of expectations about etiquette. And then also about like etiquette in terms of the parents being there and she took a nap. But then also I think with like the more interpersonal on like a little bit more of like a respectful level, respectful interpersonal stuff. She has some growing. I think my wondering was like, where is her female influence or like, what is it that she learns about being a woman from? Like, where is she getting information about that? And where is it like a strong female, because she has a lot of strength. She comes across very strong, but I think it's in an interesting sort of like not in, it's not the full kind of strength I think she's capable of and would be, amazing with. So I would want her to do a little bit of the like, including her own self-image, right? Like I'd want her to start with how does she see herself? How does she see women in general? How can she start to be the woman she ideally wants to be? And then she made some questionable choices basically. But then, not just that, Tim treating her like that, she seemed kind of unfazed by it. And some of the ways he was treating her, I was like, what the fuck? Like, are you kidding me right now? She did stand up for herself, though, I thought very well in one of the last conversations, which was great. So with Tim separately, I wonder if Tim maybe has autism, if he's on the spectrum. Obviously, I don't know. We don't know any of these people, so I have no clue. He has some very interesting, very unique, very specific social things. He's very rigid. He like he doesn't have a lot of psychological flexibility. Social skills are lacking. So I think he also has heavy trauma with his sisters. So I'd want to do trauma work. I'd wonder about the autism. And so the reason I bring it up in this context is because I think some of the way that he, like presents well at first, but then there were like questionable things. Oh, school. No, it was about schooling. So it's possible in schooling too, he would have tested funny. Like he would have tested well in certain areas because he's really smart, That doesn't necessarily mean that, but that socially he was like different. And so that's why people were confused and why he wasn't really getting the good schooling he should have been getting, because schooling is geared towards neurotypical people. So Yeah, that's a real frustrating thing there. So it kind of makes sense that that would have turned out that way too. If he is on the spectrum, it would have looked like that as well. But I totally agree the schooling is relevant regardless as a context piece. And I think the heavy trauma work regarding his sisters is important also because I think he has like this ideal version of what women should be like. And it's like his idealized version of his sisters. And it's like not even how they probably were, you know, it's like how he thinks they were. And so then he's holding her giving her the bracelet. I mean, it's like, you know, it's like very real. Yeah. Very real type of like implanting, sort of like projecting onto her what he thinks women should be like. And she also doesn't have a full sense of that herself, I think, too. So
very well said. Wow. Yeah.
One of his sisters died of lupus. And then the other one died right around then as well. And I also missed the other piece of it, how the other sister died. I don't know how I did. Right? I don't know how I missed it too. So maybe he doesn't specifically say how.
It's possible. Yeah. I don't remember it.
Right. We both missed it.
Sorry.
We both do trauma work. You'd think we would have heard
sorry,
it.
Tim.
Yeah, sorry, Tim. And Sim's sister.
Yes.
And then, tough. Sorry. There's a lot going on. We meet a lot of people really fast.
We do.
We do. More so than in therapy usually. So Garrett and Taylor, they seem to have moved forward, even though that was fucking wild about the ethnicity piece. It sort of gets blown right the fuck over by guess it didn't matter. And then Stephen and Monica, we go back to seeing Stephen and Monica. So this is another time we talk about Trump like that, except that he voted for Trump, but then he talks to them about the fact he changed his mind. He also found out his dad turns out to be half Nigerian, even though Stephen looks white as fuck. So white, so his features actually don't look white if you really think about it, like his hair.
I agree. Yep.
Right. But his skin color looks very white. Ashley and Tyler have a prayer before eating, so they definitely connect over religion, which is something that does come back.
It does indeed. Yes, a lot happened in that episode. Episode 3, Garrett and Taylor, they got engaged. Maybe that was episode 2. I might have missed that. But they had
this is the reveal. Yeah, you're right.
Yes.
My bad.
No, you're not your bad. They had a reveal. It was cute, kind of awkward. They really like lingered on the reveals. They kind of let them really drag out this season. So you get to see all the awkwardness, but they seem to be kind of into each other. There was a lot of smooching happening. There was this really goofy shot at the end of theirs where they like honed in on Garrett's hand on her lower back. It was just like, or maybe not her lower back, just her back. It was just weird. It was just like a silly moment.
It's almost like they thought that would look really like romantic, but it like didn't have that vibe because Garrett doesn't really have that vibe very much. So it's like sort of actually just awkward, not romantic.
Yeah, it made me laugh though. But yeah, they seem into each other, and it was an okay reveal overall. Bowden and Ramses both find out they're into Marissa, and Bowden's really into telling Marissa how they're like such good friends and so alike. It doesn't seem like Ramses feels the same, that they are very alike. He's not really vibing with that the way Bowden seems to be.
Yeah, it's so true.
Tim and Alex are doing their thing. Her last name is Bird, and Tim's last name has a B in it, and they're like into this, which is silly.
Birds of the bees.
Yeah, Tim says he pictures her as like a modern day Devil Wears Prada kind of person, which is cute. I liked it.
Yeah.
And then they get engaged, and that was cute. And they had the whole thing with the bracelet before, and they're moving along.
Oh yeah, he was the one with the dog thing too, right? Like he was so obsessed with calling himself a dog. Like that feels autistic too. Like that's a real choice. She was literally saying stop doing that, and he like would not.
And I know it was weird. And at first I'm like, are their humors just not matching? But he just kept saying it. And then I was saying it. Because it got stuck in my head. I was like, I'm a dog. It was
Stop
really
it. That's hilarious. I'm so into that. That's so fucking funny. That's amazing.
It was goofy. But yeah,
it is. He would not
stop.
Right?
He would, and Alex was like really not into it. So they were just not aligning on him being a dog, I guess.
He's like, you are giving me the ick actively giving me the ick. In this moment, you could choose not to.
And he's just like, I'm a dog.
I'm a dog. It's the dog in me.
It's so goofy.
All right, now we're gonna do it together. I love it. I'm gonna do it with you.
Oh my gosh. And then Hannah and someone else, I forget who. So Brittany's in front of them and they're like having a conversation about her in front of her. It felt mean girl energy. They were like, oh, you're just so nice, aren't you? I just didn't like it. Like whenever two people are talking about a person in front of them, it feels very condescending to me. I was not into it. I think that's where I started to be like, not that I dislike Hannah. I think Hannah thinks she is very mature and I think she is a lot more maybe developmentally young than she gives herself credit for.
Very much.
Yeah. But I didn't like that moment. Leo kind of builds up Brittany in a conversation, which was fine. But again, it's in the guise of other people don't see this. I see this in you. So ugh. I don't know. It's
I hated
a little meh. Tyler and Ashley got engaged. They meet and they're cute. They seem to really like each other and they're off to the races. They just have like chemistry. He's cute. She's cute. they just seem like a fit. I wish he wouldn't have lied about his 3 kids or whatever the situation is. That would have been helpful, but you know, it is what it is. Hannah and Nick decide to be together. Hannah's over Leo. She decides on Nick. She decides Nikki D's her boy. Brittany and her date with Leo. He's asking both her and Hannah about rings and she shuts down. But then he kind of does this thing where I bet you like this cut and this cut. And then
that was so upsetting.
Gave me the ick. I'm a dog does not give me the ick, but I bet you like this. And it just felt like they were both doing something that they had done before. Like it felt like a dynamic that was not good, but that they both understood their role in. And I did not enjoy watching that.
Yeah. She literally names that was what worked. She was like, I was pissed at you, but then you did that. And I really liked that you figured out what I would like. And he's like, I knew it. I knew you'd like what I like. You know, I was like,
I know what you like. I was like, yeah. It was not fun. It was not a good hang for me. And Leo's still telling Hannah he loves her. I think that's the first person he told he loved.
Because but you know when he told her, it was because she told him she loved Nick.
That's right. It was not, he was not pleased about that. And he was like, what would you do if I asked you to marry me right now? And I can't remember. I think they like stopped the conversation or something. And then was that right?
Yeah, they had it keep. They basically for our sake they stopped it too. Like so, the show, the end of your episode you're just covering in 3, they end it where we're not sure if Hannah's gonna accept it and be like, okay, like I will come with you. So that means at the end of 3, we see him go the whole Monty. Like he says, what if I told you, what if I proposed to you today? Because I do love you, Hannah. I do love you. And that's to her confusing because previously he said to her, I'm not going to tell anyone I love them until I tell you both that. Or like, I'm purposely not telling you both that so I can tell one of you that or whatever. So then he says it to her. So then that's supposed to be a big deal. That's why he saved it. That was his trump card, right? Was to be able to say, right. I love you. So that someone will have to realize how serious he was. So he says that. She said, does confuse her. It seems like she's crying. He's being super manipulative and hard. They cut the episode. I honestly was not sure. I was not sure. I thought she might go with it. Because, right, like she went back to Nick because she thought she couldn't compete with Brittany. So like if he's picking her over Brittany, does she feel safe enough in that? Ultimately, no, which is, I honestly, is way better that she was able to say no to Leo. He was very intense. He was definitely yelling. We don't ever see the end of their conversation at first. Like they stop. We hear that she's leaving it open. Like we think that meant she said no, but it didn't mean that. It meant that they were still sort of like hanging on a note, you know, and that's what you were saying about, did they not stop the conversation? Exactly. I mean, they stopped the conversation, like put a pause on it. So that then she goes back to Nick at some point. He goes back to Brittany or something. No, he doesn't even. They finish their conversation before he goes back to Brittany because he goes there to propose. This is now episode 4, friends. And we'll come back to the part in a second, but I'll just finish this thread first, even though it's like a little bit later in the episode. So then they come back together, Hannah and Leo. And at that point, Hannah has decided, no, I want to be with Nick. Like I've decided he's my guy. Fuck this. So she goes in and she starts to tell Leo that, and Leo immediately goes, yeah, well, obviously I have my number one too, which was not how he was starting that conversation. He was still hoping he could get back in her good graces. He starts it out by being like, what are your thoughts? Like, do you think we could work? You know, it was like very much hoping it was going to work. As soon as she gives any indication, no, he's like, yep, that's what I thought too. I have a number one. Like, I've always known it's Brittany. And I was trying to
And can you
stop
put in a good word? Yeah, and can you put in a good word? That I was like, whoa.
I couldn't do it. And before he also tries to say, from the beginning I've only liked her. And then he also tried to say, this morning I was trying to say goodbye or whatever. Like he was like, I've been trying to stop seeing you. And she's like, nah, that's not at all it. You definitely were not. And I liked that she called him out on that. She's like, not what you said. Not what you said earlier. And he didn't have an excuse. He just kept going as if he didn't say something that he just got caught in. Weird. And then, yeah, exactly. He then says, can you tell Brittany that I love her and da-da-da-da? And Hannah, we can tell, is like rolling her eyes to us. And when she goes back to the girls, tells Brittany exactly what he said, which was tell her that I said I love her. And she's like, and I didn't know I could tell you that because I don't know if that's true. Like he just was telling me he loved me. And that strikes a chord with Brittany, who does feel like shit about it. We'll come back to that later. So the other thing that happened here, and you have a seg. No, I did. Okay, so you noted in the notes that Leo had said in this episode at 4 that his parents were divorced, and then said I thought his parents were dead, and they were dead, but they were also divorced before they died. And I think so. He was referencing them as divorced in an active sense, which is important.
Yeah,
and you know I think confusing. It's intended as like a card of some sort, like like I don't want to be like that. Like I'm gonna make sure I don't divorce because but he's been saying it since he was 20 and his parents were still alive, kind of thing. Or I don't know. He's having a hard time grieving, and he just does talk about them still present. Sad.
It is kind of sad. Like he clearly has had a lot of trauma in his life, and
massive.
It shows. It fucking shows. Oh my gosh.
And he's actually very deeply insecure, as I think you raised too. Sad. So Monica and Steven get married, or gonna get married. They get engaged. He is very confident that he's very confident he's gonna like what oh my god, yeah. He goes and I will tell you, like, I'm pretty sure you're gonna feel good about what you see. Like, I'm pretty sure you're gonna like what you see. Like, what? You don't know if you're her type or not, but definitely confident Steven. And then Ramses and Marissa have a conversation about Adam Sandler versus Will Ferrell. She has a clear favorite for Adam Sandler. And Ramses is like, well, I like Will Ferrell's old stuff. And then he's like, and then that turns into a conversation about age. Like, essentially that made him realize when she was like, no, Will Ferrell's terrible. He's so goofy, stupid. And he was like, okay, so you haven't seen his old stuff is basically what I'm hearing from this conversation. And therefore, I think he actually suddenly felt older and more mature than she was. Like that actually shifted their dynamic a little bit. He was sort of like, oh, I guess you're sort of, wow, maybe I'm too old for you or something. It's like that kind of shit. Stupid.
Very dumb.
Right? Not the thing, not the moment, not the judgment. And we see later that is exactly how he is. He like makes decisions based on little data points and blows them up. I mean, I think that's a little bit of an OCD thing potentially or something. Like he kind of ruminates on it and then it suddenly becomes this huge thing, which it doesn't need to be. It's the ruminating, it's perseverating, which could be any number of things, including things we talked about a little bit maybe on the spectrum as well.
Yeah, something there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's also like anybody too, on top of that, and different kinds of neurodivergence. All of it. It's perseverating.
Yes. But yeah. Did I have a thing? Oops.
No, not yet. I was going to say Bodhi and Marissa break up. He handles it really well. It's impressive. Very mature. I thought he was very sweet. Yeah, very sweet about it. And he also didn't make it like but I'm here if you read. Like he didn't do the kind of thing of like, but my door's always open. I hate when people do that on the show. It drives me nuts. Or makes me very upset. So I was glad he didn't. But he did call her a girl, which we don't like it. We're not here for that here at Reality Test.
No. Call women women. Don't call them girls. Please. Right. Please.
You wouldn't like us calling you boys either. So.
No, indeed.
You do have a very fabulous segment right here. So go take this one away about Hannah and Leo.
I don't even know what it was, but I was just so concerned. Just something I wish people knew more about, I guess is where I'll put it, is like the way that power and control can play out when people feel rejected.
Yeah.
And for Leo, I just feel like this is when you see people shit, is when they're rejected. And it so came out here.
Yep.
He was just the way you already said it all. He's saying we're not compatible, trying to reject her, even though she already rejected him. Saying that their like breakup was like mutual, trying to change the narrative, and then trying to get her to go back to Brittany, like this very quick devaluing of her as a person and treating her like an object. And it goes back to like the art. Yeah. Like, are these women for you or are they just objects? It was his object relations are not good. And I think he's got a lot of stuff with power and control. He lost his parents at a young age. It's sad, and it also was concerning. And I'm glad that he and Brittany broke up quickly after getting off the show, because I was kind of worried for her. And I think she was worried too, based on the way they looked at the end when he was grabbing her fucking neck.
That was what you were going to say earlier, right? Isn't that what you were going to refer to earlier? 'Cause that was so fucking scary. Yeah, that was so aggressive and inappropriate and wild.
She
so
looks
bad.
very scared.
But yeah, she looked scared. And she also looked like, what am I doing here? And can we go? And then like, I was really impressed with her in the moment ability to be like, yeah, I don't think we're going to Mexico. She didn't quite say it, but she basically did. She was like, what if we didn't go to Mexico? I was like, good work. But yeah.
And then she was literally recoiling. Like, if someone is recoiling from you, you should probably like take a hint and not continue to try to control the situation. That was really hard to watch.
Yep. He kept finding ways to like keep trying to pull her in. And like she turned it into like trying to like turn so that they would, but then he's like, oh good, we're cuddling. It's like she doesn't want to cuddle. She just wants you to like not be touching her and certainly not facing her. And really inappropriate. It was very scary. He has no clue, no sense of what he's doing or like the clues he's being given by women. And that's not good. That is definitely not good. Very scary. I agree. The rejection piece really set him over. Like he suddenly became this like cold, like nasty guy to Hannah, including like you're saying, it objectifies her to say, go tell Brittany this, but it also like very much belittles their love for each other, quote unquote. You just told her you loved Hannah. You just said that to her fucking minutes ago, or like even, hours ago. And now you're saying, go tell Brittany I've loved her all along. Like, what? You want her to go tell someone else, like, oh, the guy I just was saying I love, and he said he loved me. I love him, but he loves you. Like, it's so rude. It's so offensive to do that. It's so clearly he does not care and or purposely did that to be hurtful, and it's awful.
It felt so toxic. I was like, get me away from this dynamic.
Exactly. Which actually we could say is a pro of producers, because also the dynamic with Brittany was really off-putting and terrible and actually scary. And so they did make a choice not to bring them to Mexico. Or did they bring them, you know what I mean? Like, or did they, there was some level of like, did they really decide not to bring them? Or like, did they decide not to go? And then producers were like, well, we don't choose everyone. Like, I don't know. There's something interesting about that. But we also see, by the way, Hannah say that she was always going to choose Nick, which we also know is not true. She very much was leaning towards Leo, clearly. He even asks her at one point during the breakup, like, if I had asked you first, would you have said yes? And she definitely doesn't say no to that. So that's rough. Cute art date. Yeah, Tim and Alexis have a really cute art date. They do a little like arts and crafts on, when they don't want to tell each other which one, not arts and crafts, just a painting on a canvas. They don't want to tell each other what they were doing, and they both guessed what the other one was going to do, and they were right. They did the birds and the bees because they're names. They were really cute.
Silly.
Yeah, they were really cute. And they have a reveal, and when they have the reveal, Tim says, I knew he was fine. I knew he was fine. It was so cute. Like, it was really nice. And yeah, the dog stuff was getting weird at this point.
I'm a dog.
I'm a dog. Again and again. That's just a dog in me. Yeah, the accent makes it fun. You're right. That's different. I could do it. I could see doing it more. I'm gonna have fun with it now.
But Alex was not into it.
Alex was not very against. Alex was a definite no for her, and understandable, because I don't know if I want my partner regularly saying that, but you know. Oh, by the way, during the breakup part between Leo and Hannah, he goes back to the men's quarters and hardcore manipulates Nick. Like he says in front of Nick, but to the other guys as if like, oops, Nick heard me, but I wasn't telling him. He goes, Hannah was so upset she couldn't form words. And he says,
I forgot that.
Wasn't that wild? It was like, no, sir, she was not. She was thrown off by you being aggressive. She felt bad saying no to someone saying, I love you, because all she's ever wanted is for someone to love her. And now she has to tell someone saying, I love you to their face. No, not real face, but through the wall. Mm-hmm. And that's what's hard. It's not you. Fuck you. So he said, she may come down and break it off with me. We obviously don't know each other's decisions. He acted like he like didn't know, like maybe she was going to break it off with me, but it's like, no, but she told you. And then at one point he also said Brittany instead of Hannah. That was wild. He accidentally called Hannah Brittany, all in this conversation with the men. And then he says in front of fucking Nick, he goes, I needed to see more strength from her. I'm not saying she's not strong. But like I needed more strength from her in that moment. Are you fucking with me right now? You fucking with me? You literally just went after her in that conversation, made her feel like shit for her decision. And then now you're telling people she needed to be stronger? Are you actually kidding me? The victim blaming is out of control. And then he says things like, well, we're just not compatible. It's like, nah, bitch, she rejected you.
That is what happened. And that was my favorite Hannah moments were actually how she handled Leo. I thought she did a great job. She saw his bullshit and she did not want any part of it. And I was like, this is great. And I'm really happy she's doing this because no one deserves to be treated the way he was treating both of them. And exactly. I thought she saw it and she was like, I'm out. And I thought that was great.
Yep. And she told Brittany along the way, which I also loved.
Mm-hmm.
So she did. I think that was very good. But oh my God. Oh, yeah. So the thing he said, by the way, was that he said he planned to cancel their date. And Hannah was like, no, you weren't saying that when we had our date. Thank you. It was just because I told you I loved Nick that you then pretended like you were going to cancel it. Okay. So our date, cute. Tim and Alexis are cute. Tim has got to stop the dog stuff. Hannah and Nick have their reveal. She's mad he's shorter than her. And he also said like he was 5'11", and that's questionable. She's in heels. That's a part of it. She also had said, you better not have a gray hair at 28. Nick ended up, you better not have a single gray hair. Nick ended up saying, I'm not as beautiful as you are, which was very, very sweet. He definitely does have some self-image issues, which we find out later in pretty serious ways as well for Hannah, both of them. So that became tough because that was already in the room as soon as they met each other. They both did. They both had internalized stuff. So, ooh, you have a thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to do therapy with Hannah. She talked a lot about her insecurities in the pods when she sees Nick, and Nick is, and by the way, Nick might have been 5'10". Like she was in heels. And actually in other scenes, I saw that he was a little taller than her. Not that it actually even matters that much, but the way she was looking at him so judgmentally, I was like, this is, I think sometimes, right, when we're very critical of ourselves, it can make us more critical of others.
Always. Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Also meeting her mother, who's very like traditionally thin or whatever. I wonder how that dynamic, or I wonder what messages she has received just being a woman in fucking society about her weight. She clearly has very high standards for herself. Mm-hmm. But even her parents were like, are you okay? Like something was up with Hannah. I'm not sure what it was. And I'm not sure we got all the way through the genuine her, but I would like to work with her about the way her own insecurities impact her relationships with others. Because even her best friend was talking shit about her in a later episode. That was kind of wild.
Dude, I thought that was her brother. Isn't that weird? Why did I think that was her brother?
Oh, maybe it was. I thought it was, could have been. I might be wrong about that.
I think it might have been the way that because it sort of like referred to like long-term, like children, I think even like him being like, it was always like that for me or whatever. I actually kind of felt like he was doing Nick a favor though. Like I felt like he was sort of normalizing for Nick because Nick was like, she does kind of get hard on me. And then like her brother saying, if it is her brother being like, yeah, that's been a thing we've talked about. It gives Nick permission to be like, can we talk about this more? You know? And I do agree, him initiating the shit talking, not good. But I think he technically said it after Nick said, she's hard on me. And she is hard on him. She's pretty fucking mean.
Yeah.
You know? She definitely has some
Yeah.
things she's right about, but like, it doesn't matter. You don't talk to people like that, you know?
No. And if you have intellectual privilege in a dynamic, like you should have gotten enough information about that in the pods to like just the way she treated him was really mean. Like it literally said, I'm smarter than you. Like, what the fuck? It was a lot. It was tough.
Yep.
But yeah.
She said, I'm smarter than you. I remember things better than you do, even though she writes things down to remember them, by the way. And then on top of that, too, she also said, you will be treated like an equal when you show up as an equal or when you contribute as an equal. Nope.
Oh, it was tough. It was tough to watch some of her behavior towards him, which I genuinely think is coming from a place of insecurity.
Yes.
Deep insecurity.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think she needs to do some work about the way she shows up in relationships because it was hard to watch.
Awful. I think she'll watch herself and hopefully learn from it, though. I think she must. I mean, she must. That was just like, wow, really stark. And it isn't just the edit, like, because you did also say those things. So it's just tough. But I think, again, both of them have their things as well. But that was really hard to watch. It was really hard to watch. Yeah. I will say just the end of this episode, the last thing really, well, sort of one of the last things is we see the Leo Brittany reveal. So they see each other. She even asks him, do you think we would have met in the real world? And he says no, because he knew that's what she was expecting him to say, because she knew she's hotter than he is. He knew she's hotter than he was too. Or he knew she thought of that at least. Real uncomfortable. We talked about it already, so I won't go back to it, but literally like grabbing her and keeping her in his physical orbit. It was very uncomfortable. That she makes it clear before it was terrible. Before the end of it, it's a very big consent issue. Like, imagine when he's drinking with somebody, it's just really bad, very bad. Not that it's not okay even when they're sober, because of course it's terrible. He's already being terrible without it going to the level of rape, but it's like very adjacent. It's very adjacent. Yeah, it's harassment. It's assault. He's putting his hands on her body without her consent, so not okay.
She looked that's another producer. Like, someone should have intervened there because she did not look safe to me.
That was not consent. That was not consent. Yeah, that was a definite producer thing. You're right. That really should have been nixed immediately. And that's something they've gotten feedback about. Not just feedback. They're getting sued right now for last season or a couple seasons ago, maybe, when Renee was being assaulted by her partner on the show.
Oh my God.
So fucked. All right. Then after that scene, which is horrific to watch, but I think by the end of it, Brittany also makes it clear to us that she's not going to want to go to Mexico with him. She says, like, well, we go to Miami if we don't go to Mexico. I think she wanted to see, given his money, if she could get there with him and get him to like shape up, and also if she would start to like him sexually. She clearly was not attracted to him at all, but if she could start to like him, given his money, would that work for her? He was the only person to say he would be okay not doing 50-50 since he had so much money. So like, she was just checking it out. They were together for a couple weeks. We find out with a title card at the end that they were engaged for a couple weeks and then broke up, but they never went to Mexico. The producers say that it's because they chose not to bring them. That's questionable. We do quickly at the end watch Marissa and Ramses have their reveal, and they're cute. They're really cute together. They're both like, you're cute.
I loved their start. I mean, that's the difference between love and lust too, right? How they kind of got off. But anyway,
that's nice.
Yeah. So now we're in episode 5. We're in Mexico. Tim and Alexis. So Tim won't stop the dog thing. Is her name Alexis or Alex? Shit, I've gone back and forth.
I think it's Alex, because you also wrote Alexandra somewhere.
Damn.
I think it's
I think it's Alex.
Let me say this. I know she goes by Alex. And Alexis was a previous season. There was an Alexis.
My bad. Sorry, Alex. He won't stop the dog thing. I also think her reaction to the dog thing is like a little heightened. Like, she doesn't have to be maybe so mad about it, but he could also stop. Like, I think.
What if he was always doing that?
Yeah, I'd be like, shut the fuck up. Like, you got to stop this. But I think maybe both of them, like, it's like the thing when people's humors don't match. Like, they're clearly like missing each other very early on, which I think continues later on. Hannah and Nick, she's critical of his appearance. I don't remember what specifically she said, but she just kind of is not super nice to him.
Yeah. She does bring up his height to us, like, pretty harshly in the testimonial.
Yeah. Yes. Which he's 5'10", 5'11", whatever. Like, move on. I think she was expecting someone very, like, the football guy, like a lot. I think she was expecting, she had a very specific image of what he would look like. And when that didn't come to be, she was very upset.
Yeah. Her image was Kelsey and Taylor Swift, which was wild on both parts. That was a wild expectation. And he's a kicker, not a fucking quarterback or something, or, you know, running fucking back. He's a kicker. That means he's going to be small. He's going to be like a little dude. And that's okay, obviously. But like, that's a weird expectation on her part anyway. If she knows football, if she was a cheerleader, I don't know. Anyway.
Right. It was a lot. Ramses and Marissa have a conversation about how she doesn't normally go for soft boys and he's kind of a soft boy. They have sex. It seems like it's going really well. They're very sexually attracted to each other. I'm happy for them. I love to see it. Love to see a good sexual connection.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that's what I was laughing at when I saw that next line. I was like, oh my God, that's funny.
In contrast, Hannah is jealous of Nick riding a duck with another woman. It was weird. She was pissed. And then the woman did not say, I think she thought that the woman used the word, called her a jealous bitch. That didn't happen. I think the woman said, don't be jealous.
Yeah, we heard that too.
Yeah. So it was silly. But then Nick said the incident, he's like, that turned me on. And that was weird too. I don't know why he said that. Maybe he was joking, but it was all weird. I was like, what is happening between these two? But she was not happy. So yeah, a very silly, weird duck incident.
It was so fucking weird. She basically said that gave me the ick. Like, I think she didn't like that he was joking about it when she said, don't do it. She told him it would give her the ick and he chose to do it, which I don't know. I kind of get that a little bit. Like, if I'm trying to tell you, like, I'm trying to tell you that's like a no for me. And the ick kind of thing is a real thing, you know, like if it's something that's going to make it hard for me to get sexually attracted to you from now on, like maybe don't do that. I don't know, you know? And then so the fact he chose to do it, I kind of get why that was like a little bit of a turnoff for her. Granted, did she have to make a list like that and leave it out? No.
Woof.
You know?
That was tough.
That was fucking wild, dude. I like really was shocked by that about the list. I didn't know because she must have purposely left it out, I imagine. Yeah. And if she didn't,
well, she's so smart and intellectually superior. So I'm sure it was all planned.
She might be right. I would imagine. I do imagine. It was funny how he like called her out in a later episode about exactly what was on the list still. It's funny. I mean, it's not funny. The point is it stuck with him because it was mean. You know, she was like, is he sure? Is he this? Is he that? She got a lot of data points from essentially one incident, allegedly. Like she's saying that happened, and then I had these questions. It's like that's a lot of questions from one incident. I think she was holding some of them already. And yeah, so the incident is a real big, random, fucking vague blob of funny and just like gone wrong. Funny gone wrong. Talk about missing each other's humor.
A lot of that in this season. My goodness.
Exactly. All right. So, by the way, we were in Mexico, if we weren't clear about that, as of part of 4. Yes. End of 4. So, that was episode 5 you just covered, yeah?
So okay, now we're doing
the other thing
6.
that happened in 5 really quickly is they had the party in Mexico where everybody saw each other as well.
Oh, I thought maybe that was 6. My bad. Yeah, the party was fine.
Yeah, the party was so uneventful that we forgot about it because, like, literally most of those parties, somebody fires off about something. They liked this person, and now they see them, and they're like, "Fuck, I really like that person." But that didn't happen with this group. None of them had their other there. Like, their number 2 was never there for these people.
My bad. I put the party in 6. I said, I think I did a little summer, and it must have been 5. So maybe I have a miss somewhere.
Or I might have swapped them as well. I'm not sure. I had them as 5, but I could also be wrong.
You're probably
I do
right.
think not a whole lot happened in 5 otherwise, though. So I do. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Regardless, point is, the Mexico party was so irrelevant that we don't know which episode it was in because it was largely uneventful. Usually a big thing happens there because there's fights about like, oh, now that I see my number 2 and they're so cute and I regret, but.
Hannah was much nicer to Nick at the party, which again speaks to me about her concerns about her image and how she presents in front of people. She was much nicer to him. It was like night and day.
She saw how nice all the women were about their men. I think part of it was like behind the scenes at the pods. I think women were being more open about their problems with all the men because there were a lot of men with problems. And so they're like, oh, that guy is Rico Suave or whatever, you know, and sort of like coming across with like a lot of harsh feedback because that was part of their role there. And then I think Hannah assumed it was going to kind of continue as the thread. And then when they got back together and everyone was sort of like, oh, my guy, like, da-da-da, Hannah was like, whoop, hard pivot. Because you see her sort of like calculate that at some point, not in a like mean way there, but she just sort of like, you see her wheels turn at some point in that conversation. She's silent, like watching. And then she suddenly like just shift, you know, she's like, Nick, come here. They like grill the boys as a part of that as well. They're sort of like having like taking turns going on this hot seat. And Nick did a good job. I think that made Hannah like him a little bit more. It always helps like to see someone else like you're somebody. Like I think it helped her because of her image issues to see somebody think Nick is cute. So then that shifted their gears a little bit too, I think. So great point. We also see Garrett and Taylor talking about how professionally they're aggressive and will that work together. Marissa and Ramses are cute. They have a strong sexual connection. Ashley and Tyler also connected in love. Alexis and Tim, everything. So yeah, but these were all things that when they first got to Mexico though. They've been in Mexico for a whole episode already.
Right.
Wasn't this?
So this is
okay, so I think we're smushing 5 and 6.
My bad.
They basically are similar. They're like similar things. Oh, yeah, because here, like you said, Hannah said the older woman called her a jealous bitch. I don't think that's what happened. Okay, so yeah. So where we have these episode 6 notes that I'm currently reading actually are also 5, I think. So we can skip through some of these. Oh, but you have some segments.
Oh.
Yeah, that was just a comment between us. And then something we wish people knew more about was about...
So something we mentioned previously about the impact of memory, speaking of me also putting the episodes in the wrong places, that's it applies. But so Hannah said that this woman called her a jealous bitch and that Nick didn't care, which is not what happened. That's how it felt to her. Right. We have talked about this previously, how sometimes people like Bryn remembering maybe the latent content versus what was actually said. What actually happened is this older woman who I don't think they were actually flirting. I think they were just having fun, was like, don't be jealous. And and Nick, he didn't say anything about that, but it's different than I think Hannah's interpretation of what has happened. And that's something we've mentioned previously.
Because he says that to Hannah, right? He says it to her that she said that, and Hannah doesn't correct him that she said that. And that's how we know that's what actually happened, right?
I actually think that Hannah said it to one of the women at the party. She was like, he called me or this woman called me a jealous bitch, and Nick didn't care.
But the reason we know his version is right, though. You know what I mean? I remember that. But the reason we know his version is right is because we see him say it and she doesn't correct him. Like, because otherwise it could have been her version and he misremembered it. But I think that we see him say it, I think, in front of her. And she sort of is like, she kind of blows past it. So I think that's how, because I remember also knowing his was right.
Yes, I actually rewatched part of it today because I was trying to get these episodes straight before we got on the pod. And I saw it again. I saw the woman say, don't be jealous. So that's what was actually
You saw the woman say it? Oh my God.
Yeah.
I didn't even know we got it on film, dude.
I think it was in the recap. Yeah. I think it was in one of the recap episodes where it went back to that. The don't be jealous.
I'm so excited. I thought this whole thing was off camera, dude. I've always thought that. I must have fallen asleep. I have to go back and watch it. I'm excited.
Yay.
Oh, my memory of it. I've had like all visual, like I'm like imagining the like duck, you know, like I have all these versions in my head that are totally just made up because I thought that we didn't get to see it. I know, I love it.
Oh no, we saw it. You should. It's a watch for sure. I'm so excited. It's fascinating. It is very, very fascinating and kind of weird, but yes.
I love that it's weird and fascinating. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Yay.
Okay, good. This is amazing. We have good content for later tonight. Okay. And then we also hear Marissa call herself a girl's girl. The ladies do the interrogations. I guess, the girl's girl was also a segment of yours in terms of.
Oh, yes. We've brought this up previously. Allie from Vanderpump Rules had a song about that. It's totally a thing now. Being a girl's girl is like the desirable reality TV trait. So I just find it fun when people say it. It's just like, oh, yes, this is the thing that every reality TV woman kind of wants to be, as a girl's girl, if you will.
Yes, totally. Totally. And just the languaging of it and so forth as well, especially when we're trying not to use the word girl for women. But
yeah.
So basically we talked about pretty much the rest of this as well. The other big event from episode CX is the one about the movement happening in the Tim Alex relationship. So they have a big old fight. She smushes his face. He's not happy. He leaves. Not good. No, it's physical assault. I mean, that's not okay.
Yeah.
He physically removes himself because that was a lack of respect for his boundaries, massively so. She put her hand over his mouth and said that he said his love language is listening. Okay, I see what you're saying there. Yep. So then she's like trying to like, first of all, she's like doesn't do a good job of understanding it at first. Then when it's like pretty clear he's thinking about leaving, she does a good job of like pivoting and kind of trying to listen. I don't know if that's the next episode, maybe though. Is that next? Was that in the same episode? Was that right away that we see them fix it? I can't remember.
Sorry, y'all. I can't remember either. Memory issues.
At some point they fix it.
Yeah, they do. They fix it right up.
Yeah.
But she really does a turn because I didn't think she liked him. And then all of a sudden she's kind of like, and her own rejection, abandonment stuff is coming up, I think, in that moment. It felt like
you have that here, so it must have been the same episode.
Yes. I took up what I said because I didn't think it actually was dad shit. That was my little, but after meeting her dad, maybe not.
Yeah.
But yeah, she did not want to be rejected by him and really did a pivot. And I thought he was I thought he was quite effective actually in communicating in that moment. Later we see a different side, but in that moment
he's so fucking condescending. Oh my God. But by the way, I still think you could be right about the dad stuff. Like, first of all, her dad now has MS. I think he's different than he was. The way she prepared him for how the meal was going to go. She's like, we're going to stand here. Then he's going to go here. And then you're going to do this. Like, she was very regimented. I think her dad was regimented, and I think the military thing came up at one point. I think he probably was hard to impress. Yeah.
Good call. Oh, good. I erased that, but maybe there was something to it. The dad stuff with her and her dad and Tim was actually sweet with the MS, and that's not sweet. But the way that interaction went was good. But you're right. She was really nervous.
Yeah, it was intense. I was like, oh no. And then I was like, okay. And I think they sort of make it seem like it's because he we need to make sure we know what we're doing with his wheelchair or whatever, his walker. It's not that. It is so clearly emotionally preparedness. And it's sort of like she's been doing it since she was a child. Is like that move too. Okay, we just need to know what we're going to do where and when so that we don't disappoint him.
Oh, kind of sad.
It also makes sense with some of the coddling too and stuff. I don't know. There's some elements to it. She definitely is like a child. I think she could be stuck in sort of childhood trauma age.
Oh, poor thing.
Yeah. And on that note, that takes us through episode 6. Check us on out for other things on social medias because I'm just going to roll right through it. We had a nice, thick, heavy episode today. So just going to tell you to check out our social media titles and such at the end of each episode description and to download our episodes. And that helps us out. And I'm just going to run right through our goodbyes. I'm so sorry, but we will see you next session.
Yay. Bye, y'all.
See you soon.